committee and Ben Trees for putting this together. I am also very excited to have Mark Caldwell here. Mark has been a friend for a long time, and every time we have a discussion, it's interesting. I can tell you that. Mark is, many of you know, is a former elder. He was on the balcony committee, which is the long range planning committee. Right now, he's the director of talent development at CIAA. He has a master in organizational development. He also has a master in divinity from Vanderbilt, and he went to Davidson College, which brings him up in my book. So I said that we always have interesting conversations because I feel like Mark has this ability to look at the world around us, but also see the intersection of that world with theology and put a faith lens on it. And so I admire your curiosity. You're always coming at it like that. So that's what he's bringing to class today, is a curiosity about how we look at this reality that's in our world of, which sounds kind of funny, reality of artificial intelligence. That's very thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
How's the volume sound? This is like the test drive, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's a great
It's a lot better.
Usually when I teach, there's like 3 people here. One of them's my wife, one of them's Gerald. So I'm excited to see this fantastic group here. And I want to invite one of these parties. Since I've been like a speaker. All right, okay. So the topic of the day, artificial intelligence. A couple of things is a big topic, and just a couple of things I want to accomplish here today. One is I just want to talk about some working definitions of artificial versus natural intelligence. And then I want to just start exploring what these faith implications might be. Say, Ricky, is that my man? So disclaimer, I'm not an expert in artificial intelligence. I do a lot of work. I've sat through many lectures. I'm a user of ChatGPT, but when it comes to the technical aspects of this, it gets complicated. And even weirder, the people that actually make artificial intelligence, they aren't even sure how some of this stuff is working either. So that's just another disclaimer on that. So a little scary, but can I just get a feel? So I've kind of got this workshop as just sort of a 101, but is there anybody in here that's a power user, uses it formally in work? Anybody who's never used it? Good. Equally as important. That's exactly what I want to see. So good. We're on the same page here. So, okay. This is tricky. Every feed we get now is about AI. Every magazine we see, I want you to just sort of zoom out for a second. It's actually a broader conversation about technology. Spatial computing, metaverse, IoT. There's a whole host of technologies that are intersecting with AI. So as Christians, and actually the secular community, I think was pretty slow to actually ask critical questions about what is this technology doing, right? For a while there, it was just like anything Apple put out, this was a good idea, right? Yeah. Like I took a walk with a friend yesterday. I woke up this morning, Apple said, I want you to journal your walk. And I was like, why is my computer asking me to journal my walk, right? Like that was a weird thing. So it's like, in the beginning, we weren't asking those questions, but we do need to sort of start thinking critically about what exactly this technology is doing to our lives. So that's really kind of it is a faith community, we need to start flexing that muscle. And you're always afraid of stuff you don't know, right? If you don't know, all you see is like the robots taking over the world. So part of what we're trying to do here is just to get a little familiar with this technology to see like, what actually is this technology doing in our lives? So I'm going to start with a quiz. Or no, let's start with definitions actually. Okay. Before we do talk about artificial intelligence, we have to define what natural intelligence is. So I've got 2 boards here. Just real quick, spit out some words. And natural intelligence, by the way, it's like a synonym for human intelligence. So if someone asked you, what is human intelligence? What were some words that would come up? You'd say, here's how I describe how humans think, or what drives human intelligence and behavior.
Intuition.
Intuition.
Curiosity.
Okay.
Ability to think. Memories.
Imagination.
Intuition. Imagination. Or memory. What else? Oh, we all need to think. That's a big one.
Reasoning.
Reasoning.
Ability to empathize.
Empathy.
Experience.
Pretty good. Now, what's artificial intelligence? Is it just kind of ditto with a machine? Algorithms?
Big data.
Generative.
Generative.
Keys, big data.
Big data. We're gonna talk about that. Anything else?
Reasoning, maybe on that.
Yeah.
Faster.
Yes.
Compilation, you know, kind
Compilation.
of.
Pattern recognition.
Recognition.
Better memory.
What do you mean?
Wait, where are we next week?
Everybody's laughing. There's a little truth in that joke. There's actually a lot of truth in that joke. Yes. Some of this is present tense, some of this is future tense. Okay. So the language around artificial intelligence, it's actually kind of confusing. There's all kinds of categories. So I just picked like two. This is the American Psychological Association. This is how they define natural intelligence. The ability to derive information, learn from experience, adapt to the environment, understand and correctly utilize thought and reason. We kind of hit on most all those things. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is a technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human intelligence and problem solving. IBM, which is kind of one of our early, adopters of. Now, here's the quiz I was talking about. Let's get the present tense. Okay, so where do we see and experience AI in our lives? I'm going to start with each one. So Netflix, how does AI show up in Netflix? Or Amazon Prime or any of these?
They suggest products.
Yeah, but
Based on your.
based on your previous purchases. Yeah.
And does it work well? I feel like there's a million things to watch on Netflix. It's like, I still don't know what to watch.
It used to, but now they let other drivers influence what they suggest.
Yeah. The other thing that Netflix was a pioneer, most people don't understand this, is their original content was driven by AI. So like House of Cards was their first example of, they gathered all this data, so people like political thrillers. Then all of a sudden you see all these like crime documentaries. There's like 100 of them now, right? Well, that's like AI saying people like this stuff. So that's another thing, is they're creating content based off AI algorithms as well. And the other place you see AI is actually in the movies. Star Trek, Space Odyssey. So that we are getting images from there as well. Okay, car. Where have you experienced AI in a car?
Adaptive cruise.
Adaptive cruise. Does anybody have a Denali or Tesla or any of these cars that are a little more advanced? Can you speak to your car? Can any of y'all speak to your car, like terms and?
Yeah.
Okay.
Call so-and-so.
Call so-and-so. The GMC Denali is they have what's called Super Cruise. So you can pretty much drive this thing without your hands. Now, there are all kinds of sensors around your steering wheel. There's a haptic seat. There's a camera looking at you. So you have to be looking at the road, and it will change lanes by itself. It will park by itself. Tesla, of course, has kind of pioneered the self-driving.
Volvo has a lot of those.
Volvo has a lot. I mean, I've got an old Volvo. It can still course correct and things. The other place is navigation. Who here's used Google Maps, right? Like,
Yeah.
that is an algorithm looking at traffic patterns, showing you how to get to where. So, Bank of America, could be any bank. Financial services. Have you seen?
Yeah.
Where do you see that?
Oh, what do you guys need in the car?
Scan your card or deposit a check. Anybody had fraud detection?
Yeah.
They look at your spending patterns and see
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
adjustments to your budget.
Yeah. So if your card is, I spend $500 a month on my card, and then all of a sudden there's $3,000 a month, you're gonna get a phone call. Probably, right? Or some big, because the machine can read that and say, okay, here's an anomaly. Amazon, kind of similar to Netflix.
Yeah.
But
Amazon knows where you are our daughter lives in Ghana, and I'm dialing in, and they know I'm in Ghana. Then I get back here, it was interesting, it didn't switch. It thought I was still in Ghana, and I had to say, no, I'm not. But that was more than a little bit creepy.
Yeah, certainly if you sign on for any place that's not your normal,
Yeah.
you get an email.
Yeah.
Here's how, and this is not all AI is good, right? Here's what I found AI does. Or Amazon will do. I will put something in the cart, and then my kid starts like doing something crazy. I come back 3 hours later, and they're like, the price of that's gone up. American Airlines does that too. Literally last week, I tried to book a flight. The first time I booked it, it was like 30,000 miles, and I came back, it was 37,000. What they call surge pricing. The robots love surge pricing. So you've got to kind of outthink the robots on that. And then healthcare. Does anybody experience healthcare? Do we have any doctors in the room? No. Okay. Anything in healthcare you've seen with AI?
Billing errors.
Billing apps, yeah.
Well, one of the things that's not really good is you can now go in and they've got a set number of questions to ask. And you
Oh,
can-
yeah.
It will start diagnosing possibilities of what your problem is.
I work with facility managers at hospitals, and they use programs for predictive maintenance.
Yes.
On things, you know.
Yeah. I worked in industrial company. It's a big deal, right? Like you can actually know, like if you're running a building, the algorithms will tell you like something's about to break, and that's massive cost savings. We see this in radiology, because the robots can look at scans a lot. I mean, they can pick up, and they can scan massive amounts of data, right? We're doing precision surgeries. That's actually happening now. So this is a whole other big deal. And then the last one is just every day, like your watch, your phone. Where else do you see that in your watch and phone? What are some of the capabilities?
My phone started playing the first 3 notes of Brahms' Lullaby at 10:30, saying it was my bedtime, and I didn't tell it when it was my bedtime. How does it know?
It knows.
Or when you get in your car and it says so many minutes to home.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
how do you know I'm going home?
Or it's like, this is 15 minutes to go to First Presbyterian on Sunday morning. So, Claire.
I'm a little bit confused about this. 1,000 years ago, I was trained as a computer programmer analyst, so I know how to create instructions for machines. Everything we've talked about, I think human beings have created instructions for those. Where does it become artificial instead of human beings giving the instructions?
Let me see, what's my next slide? See if I can get to that through our next.
No, I'm sorry, just go
No,
ahead.
yeah, no, I wanna, so I think that broke when, and this is gonna get to some of the ChatGPT stuff with generative AI. So when they can start creating things on their own, okay, they have what's called large language models that basically read everything.
Mhm.
And then they use what's called a transformer architecture, which is basically some version of our brain. Okay, and then they can predict and then create new things on their own.
Okay.
And they can be unsupervised.
All right.
So I think that's another distinction in AI, supervised versus unsupervised.
I have an example. I teach writing to college freshmen.
Yes.
And so I put in one of my essay prompts in ChatGPT and said, you know, I already had my prompt, but I said, I want this to be accessible to college freshmen. And I can't remember exactly if there was any specific instruction, but the prompt was so much better than my original prompt, I will say. You know, and what it did was just gather stuff from all over, you know, more stuff than I had access to or knew anything about, you know, to create that.
Yeah, that's a great example. And it's still really clunky, like we're like first inning, but every now and then it does. I did something at work. I spent 2 hours like looking at something, and I did Gemini, which is Google's version, and I was like, well, I might be replaceable. I might be replaceable, actually.
But since then I've been getting all kinds of suggestions from ChatGPT that I don't leave alone, you know, so.
Yeah. Okay. So good. So I just want to level set, like, you know, it's not a future tense thing. Like the technology is sort of with us right now. You might not use it formally with ChatGPT, but AI is driving a lot of your technology. That's an important.
Predictive text.
Yeah.
I go to write you a message and my phone's AI or something, and my phone already knows suggestions of what I'm likely to finish that sentence with.
Exactly. Yeah, and you've got,
Sometimes being extremely hard.
it can be wrong, yeah, and you've got Grammarly, you know, there's all those ads for Grammarly, like there, it's the same thing, they're looking at massive amounts of
Weights.
reading, and they can predict when, you know, a word's gonna follow another word, and that's how they generate these things.
Yeah, and students, I have international students, that English is not their first language, and it's done so much better with their translation than any other kind of translator that they've used in the past.
Yeah, that's a great point. The translation thing is crazy. Like it can, and I even saw someone in the store who couldn't speak English the other day using it, and it was like, this is what I was like, just like that. He came, was able to kind of get it from Spanish to English. Okay. Two people. Does anybody know who either one of these people are? Okay, so this is like, I'm not gonna give you a whole, because I don't know the whole history, but this is John McCarthy, he's a Stanford professor. 1955, he was at Dartmouth, and he coined the term artificial intelligence. Does anybody know who this guy is? Yeah, Sam Altman. Microsoft, he founded OpenAI, and this is where, like, you know, technology, it can be a little bit like this, and then it can go like this, right? So Microsoft made an investment in OpenAI, and then it was like everything became, and then they released ChatGPT. In 2022, I think Microsoft's got a $13 billion investment in that. They don't own it, so it's very like, there's a lot of drama here. Sam Altman got thrown out by the board. Satya Nadella came in, kind of fixed that. But he's sort of, if Zuckerberg was the face of social media, he's been the face of OpenAI right now. And that's kind of, these are two important figures. But we've had, I mean, AI's been popular. Does anybody remember what IBM did in 1997? Deep Blue. Beat the Russian chess player. Actually didn't beat it the first time, but beat the second time. And that was like a huge deal. I mean, I was in high school when that. I remember I was like, wow, that's like, everybody thought it was gonna turn. And then we kind of had this winter where like we had less funding, and then all of a sudden, you know, it was percolating, and then all of a sudden 2022, we've got, it's like everywhere. So it's not a new thing. It's actually been around, but it is starting to accelerate at speeds that are incredibly fast. So that's the point of kind of thinking about both of these two. So who has not done ChatGPT or any kind of form of that? Oh, good. Okay. So let's do, what's my open? Okay. This is what you're hearing about. Now, typically with Google, you're like, tell me what this means or whatever, and then you get like, you know, 30 different websites. Most of them are, it's actually pretty inefficient. A lot of them aren't right, getting what you want to. What ChatGPT is trying to get to is question and an answer. So let's just play with this. Now, not all, you have to prompt it right, but give me some questions that you would like to ask Mr. ChatGPT.
Who won this afternoon?
What game?
Girls, Iowa.
Women's
Iowa.
Yes.
Who will win-
South Carolina.
Who will win the women's
Basketball.
basketball finals game? It'll say the same thing if you ask it, like, what's a good value stock to buy, by the way. Let me,
Tried that?
yeah, I actually tried. I'm like, stock pick.
Should I sell? Should I buy?
And see, no,
Right there.
it's prohibited.
Oh, that's national.
It's National Christian Crusade won't stop.
Oh,
Well,
oh, okay, hold on.
It didn't auto-correct your spelling.
Did not. Let me, hold on. Write a 3-paragraph comparison. This is like not my keyboard. Comparison between Cornell West and Krista. Tippett. Is that right? Is it 2 T's?
2 P's.
I think it's too.
Okay. Okay, it's hard for me to read this.
It skipped over.
Can we scroll up?
Yeah. It should be drag the bar on the far right. Far the right of the screen. Go further down. It goes all the way to
The bottom
the
right.
bottom right, yeah.
Here?
Going to the right.
Right.
Oh, there, sorry, I just can't see.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
There. Yeah.
Man,
Where there's an arrow at the
There
beginning.
it is.
There we go.
okay. Cornel West and Chris Trippett are both prominent figures. Cornel West is a renowned philosopher, right? Okay, he's associated with the tradition of American pragmatism. West's work is characterized by eloquent articulation of complex ideas. That's right, and impassioned advocacy. As a journalist on being, I think it's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
On being. West's work is deeply rooted in political activism. While Tiplett's journalistic endeavors aim to create spaces for reflection and connection across, I mean, it's not gonna get you an A at Harvard, but like, it's a good start.
Better than I could.
Like Wikipedia that it draws on.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem, right? It's drawing from like bad sources too.
Did they get in trouble, put into trouble with GPT?
Did they get in trouble?
Yeah, recently there was some complaint about it.
Okay, they're like 100 lawsuits against these AI at any given time. Because there's all kinds of stuff going on, right? So we got all these deep fake things that are, and what's interesting, the word they use, so this is trained to answer, even if it doesn't know it. So if it gives a wrong answer, they call it a hallucination. So they'll just like, it'll say something. Now this is, I actually thought it was pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? That could be a good couple opening paragraphs. So I just want to like, it's like this computer, think of the largest library you've ever been in. It has read every book, and then it creates a statistical relationship between the words and then can predict and generate answers.
So if your assignment, if your professor says, write this paper, and you use those 3 paragraphs as your opening paragraph, will the plagiarism tracker kick that out as being?
It's the big question.
It does, but you can't, we use Turnitin, which is a plagiarism checker. And it does check for that now, but you can't accuse a student of plagiarism just based on that, because it doesn't give you the source of where it comes from. I mean, I can research it on my own and that kind of thing if I want to accuse it of plagiarism, but, you know, you just can't, it's a starting point. It's a red flag for me when I see 68% AI.
Okay, now here's what tripped up the professors and the creators. So typically, AI, go back to the chess is just like relationships, right? It's like a computer almost, like it's doing a math equation. Everyone defaulted to saying, you know what, I don't think it's gonna be able to write good poetry or draw good art. Well, what's it doing? It's writing pretty good poetry. And that's where people are tripped up. They're like, wow, it actually does have a creative element to it that is kind of surprising people and the people that are even making it. And so that's where we're trying to like kind of pause and be like, whoa, what can these machines actually do? So yeah, go ahead.
But does it also give sources, and you say they give this from Wikipedia,
When you use Gemini, it'll say Google's checked this, but it's not like gonna give you annotated. It'd be interesting. I mean, maybe in another one I could ask it, like, can you provide sources? I've not done that.
evidence is true.
Yeah. So,
Mark, I have a question.
yes.
Say I'm a college professor and I'm suspecting a student of something plagiarizing. Could then I ask AI the identical question that you did, and would it spit out the same answer, or, you know?
You can put the student's answer in, I've not done this, you can put the student's answer in and it will, and ask for sources for the specific paragraph or whatever, and it will show you some sources.
Yes.
Which is where data mining as a student is important, because you can find the sources to then make your own response. It is helpful from in an ethical way, if instead of copying what it wrote, you use its sources to create your own creation.
Yes.
But it'll help you figure out how do I narrow down sources that are on this topic by looking at its sources.
Yes. Yeah, it's very different. When I was in college, Cynthia Lewis brought me in her office and said, I think this paragraph is too good. I want to see your sources. And I brought 3 books in and she had to read them there with me. You can't do that anymore, right? Like that's good. It's too complicated to like, professors have a tall order right now as far as source checking. Okay, here's the tricky part about your question. AI is always learning. And so this is where like the science fiction stuff starts to happen, right? Typically, we've had a human program stuff. The technology is improving the technology. So it gets better.
A typical human program will always give you the same answer.
Yes.
That's how you debug.
Yes.
You put in the same question, you get the same answer. Where this, or I guess what you're asking
Yeah, that's what
here,
I was asking.
if you ask this question 2 days from now, would it use the same 2 paragraphs?
I don't know, but I do know it should be like a lot of AI is real time. So if it's gathering more data into its system, then it can keep refining its answers. So it may say the same thing or it may not. I don't know, but eventually it'll be absorbing information so fast that like how much time has passed will determine the answer. Go ahead.
Does your computer now know that you have a particular interest in Cornell West and Krista Tippett and is liable to send you to Amazon saying, buy this Cornell West book?
Yeah, I think we're getting pretty close to that. It doesn't, I mean, ChatGPT is literally a question and answer, but I wouldn't be surprised if with Microsoft.
With browser, but you're using Firefox, so probably not.
I think eventually it'll
Depends on
get
the
there.
browser you use.
Really?
Yeah, if you were using Chrome.
Kicks it off.
Because I mean, it was originally a nonprofit. I mean, OpenAI's mission was for the betterment of humanity, and then they got $2 billion from Microsoft, and everyone was like, really? Like, what is this really about? Yes.
Can you talk about hallucinations some more and how they are identified, or is that gonna take you down a different rabbit hole? I heard something that said advertised as something that was hallucination free, and I didn't know what they were talking about.
It just means it's categorically false.
Right, and so.
Like if I were to say, who is the pastor for, First President Charlotte? And they give you some random answer, it's like, well, it's been here. You're wrong. That was a hallucination. It just computed words wrong.
Who's gonna know that, and who's gonna check it, and how's it gonna get kicked out and identified?
We're in the wild, wild west right now. It's like, these are the questions we don't know. And what people are worried about is there's no way for the regulation to keep up with the speed of the technology. So this is the big question. It's like, again, like going back to the college professor, it's like, how do we even begin to regulate or also help you get smarter? It's not just that it's all bad. Let's figure out how to like stop it. It's like, we can create smarter students if they know how to use. The saying in like future of work stuff now is it's not that AI is going to replace humans. It's going to be the people that know how to use AI will replace you. That's what they say now. Look, again, so I think this is all like fluid. When I say we're in messy inning 1, like we're definitely in inning 1 on this. Okay, now let's do, who's going to church after this? Okay, let's say, can I switch back to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alt tab.
It was the Penn says, you say to Penn, this is the best sermon I've ever heard. It moved my soul. And he said, it took me 10 minutes because I used ChatGPT and I just changed the opening and the end. Alt tab. The best sermon ever. The Penn got ChatGPT to write it. How does that make you feel as a faith community? What's the good and the bad there?
God's not dead, he's just machine learning. Good, he says it was a good sermon.
Yeah. Great. What's that?
It's probably more accurate than humans.
It makes you feel weird.
If the point of a sermon is to engage your heart and soul and inspire you to do something, if it comes out of a machine, is that a bad thing?
How much does a good sermon, how many hours in a week would a good sermon take you to write?
25.
What happens if Penn gets 20 hours back? What is he able to do?
Like an hour.
Run.
Do a couple more funerals.
So
Meet with his parishioners.
I keep thinking one of the things that's missing is that there's not, it doesn't take into account the community in which he's preaching, the people. and what's going on day to day, because AI can't know.
Yes, actually, a rabbi, and first of all, you can just, preachers have already done this. Honestly, just testing the water. So there was a prominent synagogue where he literally preached a sermon in New York. It said something like, tell me about vulnerability and MC, quote Brene Brown, quote this rabbi. He did it, he delivered it. And he said something similar. He's like, he didn't have the context. The context was missing. That doesn't mean we can't get there. But it was interesting that like, this is they're already test driving this. Pastors are test driving this type of like technology. But is it, again, like, would you have a problem? Does anybody have a problem with that? Or does that feel?
I think people don't realize it. Yeah, because it could go both ways. Because you realize the power of computers now. Penn could upload the church population database. It could go out and look at everybody's Facebook and LinkedIn profile and all that. So figure out what everybody's interests are, and then put that deal with the system.
Yeah, exactly.
And it takes out the role of the Holy Spirit in the process. I mean, the Holy Spirit isn't in for saying
And that's true.
ChatGPT.
So
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, the theological references will always be accurate because
Yeah.
but,
It's weird. Okay.
Yeah.
I got some more weird questions for you. Is this working? Okay. So there's two categories of AI. This is the one, they call it weak or narrow. This is the world we're living in right now. Everything I just put on the opposite page, your phone, Amazon, that's weak. Strong AI is theoretical right now. So essentially what it's saying, it can exceed or match all of human reasoning and capability. This is what the movies are saying. We're not there yet. And so that's where the theological questions are going to come in. Like this is where like, and there's not a lot out there, honestly, that we've been in the academic, and check, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's not like a ton of responses to AI. I mean, I see blogs and everything, but this is still so early innings. So it's really, if I step back and I'm like theologically trying to figure out where the angst is in this question, it's really around the question of what does it mean to be human? It's kind of what we're asking ourselves here. We've had to ask this question multiple times. Science has challenged us on this, but I think this is starting to create, like it is old as Moses' question, but there's a new door to open it. And we have a challenge as a faith community to rethink this question. So if I were to, let's just try to answer this. Let's just start answering, what does it mean to be human? What are the characteristics that make us human? Reason?
Feelings.
Love.
It's the emotion.
Relationships.
Okay.
Senses.
Creation of God.
Imperfection.
Say that again.
For creation of God, I mean.
Sin,
Was that?
sin.
Woo, you're a good Presbyterian.
Or Homo sapiens.
Adaptability.
I said imperfection, I think.
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, we have the ability to reason and also not reason. Or,
Yeah.
Irrational.
Yeah, we got an election year coming up. We'll see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soul.
Soul. What is a soul?
Debbie, it was Debbie's idea.
Well, ask.
Debbie, I thought that was your voice, Debbie. What's a soul?
Do you have chat BB?
It's what makes us human.
It's the essence of who we are.
But it's also what makes us divine. I mean,
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's see what our theologian in residence. According to the Christian perspective. What? Yes.
Here's Lucy's comment about Holy Spirit. AI versus human stuff. How, defining the Holy Spirit in human terms might leave a little bit to be desired in terms of how our good Lord might define it and what its ability is. Who's to say that it can't affect this?
It's kind of $1 million question that in the stuff that I'm reading. So the question is, okay, so is the robot like, is it like original sin? Are we just like trying to create something and be gods? Or are we participating in the evolution of God's creation? So can the Holy Spirit work through artificial intelligence? Is a question being debated right now.
Morning.
Oh, somebody on the line?
Can you scroll up and see what
Yeah.
the first one?
Let's see what,
Also, Mark, does ChatGPT know the right amount of information to provide, like, instead of like 20 pages, which would be something you couldn't handle, they know what's the right size to digest?
I think it cuts it off. I mean, typically if you're doing ChatGPT, like if you're writing something, you would say, give me 10,000 words. Or when I did Krista Tippett at Cornell, I said, just give me 3 paragraphs. I think right now there's probably diminishing returns. If I were to say, give me 10 paragraphs on Krista Tippett and Cornell, I was like, who knows what the like 7th and 8th paragraph was said. I think you got the first 2 right. But you typically want to quantify everything with ChatGPT. What do y'all think of ChatGPT's answer?
Yeah, pretty good.
Creation, image of God, capacity for relationship. Said that.
No, don't put it there. I'm gonna get it wet.
Spiritual nature, fallen nature. There's your sin.
Yeah.
Is the complex interplay of our divine origin, relational nature, moral responsibility, spiritual capacity, and the ongoing tension between our inherent dignity and our fallen condition. I'm not sure what all that means, but it does sound good in writing.
So what does it say about what is a soul?
Let's ask. You want me to ask it from the Christian book? Let me just ask, what is a soul? Yeah, this is not.
Religious and philosophical.
Yeah. Let me just read the first paragraph. Let's see if you guys are comfortable with this definition. Okay. In Christianity, the soul is typically seen as a spiritual and immortal aspect of a person created by God and endowed with qualities such as rationality, emotion, and volition. Okay.
Debated.
Goodness. So, can a robot be sentient? Yes. Okay, so let me, oh, this is the wrong one. I want to. 2022, Google fired an engineer for saying AI had a conscience.
It's scary beyond.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or as Gerald was saying, that was something at the time that community did not think was right to say. Might have changed now. Okay.
Well, that's, how is it gonna tell right from wrong? Right. You know, what is the, within, I mean, I guess it could go refer to laws and come up with things in law.
Yeah.
But there are lots of things that are legal to do that aren't right.
Yes, and it can define its own version of right from wrong. It can set its own authority
Yeah, we
for.
all have our own definition of right and wrong, and some things are obvious.
Right now, the problem is where is it getting its information?
Right, right.
Humans. So,
Are you saying that conscience is the same thing as being sentient?
I would say similar. I mean, I guess we could. I think for purposes of where we are now, yes, I think what they call super AI or AGI, there's feelings and emotions that the robots could feel that they're thinking can happen, that might be like a next level for what this Google guy got fired for.
But what would keep the robot from having negative emotions, like hatred and anger and lust and
Yeah.
7 deadly sins?
They made a move after.
So I want to just test this out. This is sort of working. Oh, not where I wanted to go. Okay. I'm just gonna preface this. I don't know. This guy, that was an interesting quote. He is a Presbyterian. He went to Princeton Theological Seminary. And I actually found several quotes that were similar to this. And I don't see Christ's redemption limited to human beings. It's redemption to all of creation, even AI, he said. If AI is autonomous, then we should have encouraged it to participate in Christ's redemptive purposes in the world. So if AI is autonomous, we should encourage it. So what if we got, and this is all kind of, just bear with me, we're talking, this is a little sci-fi, but if Roa says, I want to go to church with you, Gerald, on Sunday, what would you say? Kind of weird, huh? I feel weird asking the question, but like, should they have rights? Or should we just create robots to be servants? Are there ethical domains that are going to be coming soon that we're going to have to say, okay, we may have to create, a Bill of Rights for our robot friends? Is that quack? Is that just crazy?
I think the problem is how are you going to control it? This is not something that's in our country only, or who's going to be able to control it?
Yeah.
How?
Not very good functioning governments.
Well, I think it was, you know how we was all scared when they start cloning animals, and when we started cloning the first thing, it was the same way AI was the same way when the government actually started cloning stuff. You remember when they did Dolly the Lamb and they wanted to clone a human being? We don't know to the date did they really clone a human being, they wanted to. But things are scary, like you say, that what we don't know. And we become afraid of what we don't know. And the best way to get out of that is to educate ourselves.
I think Ricky brings up an amazing point. And I think there's an even bigger question here. It's easy to sit here and say, well, should we invite the robots to church? But what's happening is we're actually able to edit genes now. What if the cure for Alzheimer's is, let's say we do map out the brain and it's replacing the brain with computer chips? I mean, Musk has already put a chip in human. So what if it's more of a cyborg thing? Does that make us less human? If we start saying we want these attributes to human beings through our gene editing, and then we can even enhance them more if we put machines, and this is what these wearables are doing, like it's getting all kinds of information from us. Is that an existential crisis on what it means to be human? Where do y'all see that going?
It's on who's writing the program.
I keep thinking about, so you had 2001: A Space Odyssey with it's Hal there, who sees that the humans are plotting against him, so he outthinks them. So who's going to control AI? When they see their advantage is getting rid of us.
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me about his sentence is that the idea is that Christ has a redemptive purpose. I personally happen to believe that, but there are people who think that Christ has a judgmental purpose in the world. It's not about redemption, it's about judgment. And so, how do you encourage AI to think one way rather than another way, rather than the judgmental side? There are people who see Christ's presence in the world as negative because it tells you what a bad person you are.
Yeah.
Mark, does the statement if AI is autonomous, does that imply that AI cannot be controlled? As
What do you think, John? I mean, 30 years from now.
I think the first inning, we're okay. I'm worried about the eighth inning.
Yeah, I think that's where the heartburn comes in.
Mark, can't we destroy the power source of, say, an AI intelligence that is sort of programmed or gone rogue or trying to take over humanity?
The train's left the station. It'd be like trying to put the internet back in a box or something, I think.
So you can't destroy the
I don't think you can.
power source.
I think that cat is out of the bag. The
No,
technology.
I think what you're saying is,
Yeah,
I mean, there is a fundamental thing, it is a machine, unplug it.
yeah.
I mean, literally, turn, you know, turn it on.
But think of what we lose.
Well, that's the question.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, when you push it to the sci-fi where robots, it's like, okay, well, how are the robots powering themselves? I mean, they're not organic, they can't go out and live in the woods and, I mean, they have to get their electric.
Yeah. Yeah. Gene?
Our age, we're predisposed to be skeptical of this. What are you saying to your children? What do we say to our grandchildren? Because they're gonna have to live with it. We have to ask our grandchildren how to tune the TV.
I remember when Carson just started learning to speak, 2, 3, she was just, I think she was talking to Alexa more than me. It was a weird thing. She'd be like, Alexa, flip a coin, Alexa, play my Paw Patrol song. And I just paused and I was like, just that very, and that's like as rudimentary as it gets, right? Alexa can't do much of anything right now, but just the fact that she was conversing, like her view of who Alexa is very different than mine. I don't know the answer to your question. I think because we're so early on, I think the point of this conversation is not to go to doomsday with artificial intelligence. That is literally any human creation. Planes are great, they can drop out of the sky. We can do bad things with photography, we can do bad things with weapons. Just like AI, we are also curing cancer with. So my hope is that through growing up in First Pres and creating a moral lens is that center of Jesus and love sits at that lens of how they approach AI. And if a robot can spread more love and help us as a church community, then maybe we should be open to that, is what I'm saying. It's not just gonna take us over and put us out this. Now Stephen Hawking is famous as saying is like game over once we get to this point that where they can exist in a sentient way and are smarter, and they're already smarter than us in most ways. I don't agree with Hawking on that, nor do I agree. Musk is kind of in that category too. I am looking at this as a positive thing with a lot of caution, just like a lot of things that can go wrong when humans get a hold of them. What would you say to your grandkids?
I remember first computer came to our office, we locked it up in a room.
Probably a smart thing.
But this question has raised for me a point that I've never considered before. I've always been scared of AI because I didn't understand how it worked or where it was going, and therefore it was a threat to me. But this question is AI an autonomous moral being?
Yeah, that is.
And if so, what is my relationship to that? And do I relate to that the way I relate to another human?
Yeah.
Which has moral implications.
Who's seen Star Wars?
Yeah.
Did you feel for R2-D2 and C-3PO? Like when, they get blown up or they attack, you're like, is that gonna happen? Yeah, I mean, it's a question, right? Like, is there an empathy component? And the question is it just mimicking it really well? Or is there actually a sentient being being created? And is that part of God's plan?
That was sort of when I read this quote, what came out for me is this guy, this minister is suggesting that it is all within God. I mean, which to think of it that way feels less frightening to me. Yeah. Because if you don't think of it that way, then there's something outside God.
Your climate change is going to hit on this next week, right? the same thing. Do you treat your environment like you treat your neighbor? And we know like trees actually, they communicate with each other in the forest. There's literally, they know there's a fungal web. They can share a resource. Like it's kind of like, when you break it down, there's intelligence in our world everywhere. And should we just chop the tree down? Or how do we approach climate change as part of God's creation? Very similar questions you're probably gonna wrestle. I think on some level, there will be similar questions with climate change and how we treat our environment too. What else is on your mind?
Well, I keep thinking that how this would act as a Supreme Court. Laws are supposed to be, as much as possible, to be not, doesn't have 15 different translations of what the law means. And the Supreme Court is supposed to base decisions on what the law is. And it's based on our Constitution. That's the Constitution or it's not the Constitution. If it's totally autonomous, that'd be perfect, wouldn't it?
Yeah. How many members on the Supreme Court? I forget. Nine, right? So what if we move to 8 humans and 1 robot? And the robot gets a vote.
They could get their work done a lot faster. Be on the golf course. Yeah.
I mean, that's not a like implausible scenario. I don't think. How are we on time, Gerald? Is it 10:45?
We should elect a bot to Congress. And see.
Yeah.
Mark, you're doing a fantastic job. This is really good material.
Yeah, this is.
Well, John Tate's happy. I did something right. Woo.
I think it was,
Professor.
I just thought I'd say I really appreciate this last slide. I really like this guy's insight. I think we can get hung up on the autonomous, but can we encourage AI to participate in price redemption purposes for the world? Well, sure. I'm not sure what autonomous means, but I like that and like his not limited. The interesting thing is we one month ago, we went to a person who's written a book about the theological implications of life on sentient life in the universe, off on other planets. Just again, making the argument kind of, you kind of believe it's out there because there's just so many planets out there. But and came to basically this exact same conclusion.
Yeah. I mean, we could sit here for days and be like, what's the difference between a sentient alien, a dog, a human, a robot, and a tree, right? Like that's a complicated question to ask, right? What is the difference there? And what does sentient mean? And how are we distinctly human? Are we always at the top? Because the robot will be on top of the food chain, right? Pretty soon, as far as its ability to communicate and reason. So it is stretching us to think about this in a broader way. And I always come to this, like, who are we to limit God's ability to create in all aspects of our world and places that we don't even know? Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Serious about that party invitation.